Today we will talk about list and tuples in Python. So list and tuples are containers which can hold multiple values, unlike variables which can only have a single value. So let's say you want to store a list of names of students, right? So and there are 5 students. So you don't need to create 5 separate variables. Instead, you can create a list or a tuple, and then you can store all the names of those users in that list. So let's see a very basic example. So let's say I call my list names, and the syntax to initialize the list is you will have square brackets, and inside the square brackets you will have values of the list separated by comma. So let's say I say that the name of the first student is Usman, the name of second student is Abasi, and then so on and so forth. So I have 4 student names here in this list, right? So if I had not I didn't have any list, I would have used 4 variables to store these 4 names. But because of the list, I can create only one variable of type list, and then I can store all the variables in that list. So let's say I want to access any item from the list. So that's very simple. You just write the name of the the list, which is names, and then you write the index in square brackets here, right? So indexes start from 0. So this is at 0, this is 1, 2, and this is at index 3, right? So let's say I want to access this student name. So I will write Usman at 1, right? So sorry, names at 1, and I will print it. So this will print Abasi because this is the first index number 1, so it has a value of Abasi. So let's run this code, and it has printed Abasi. If I let's say print the 0th one, it should print Usman. Yes. So this is a very basic example of how to access variables in the lists, right? Now you can also do other operations in list, like you can add items in list, you can append, you can combine 2 lists, and so on and so forth. So let's say you want to add another item in this list, right? So what I will do is I will say names, and then list provide us with a function append, right? So if you use PyCharm, it uses it in AdSense, and it will show you all the available methods. So there are multiple methods which you can use, like there is a sort method, there is a reverse method. So you can explore these methods also. So right now, let's say I want to add an item in the list. So I would say names dot append, and then I will give the new item to add in the list, and I will say Usman 3, right? So now if I print my list, okay, so if you pass the name of the list to the print statement, it will print the whole list. So let's see where this value has been added in the list. So see, it has been added at the last index, right? So this is what usually happens when you append an element inside the list, right? Okay, so now let's say you have 2 lists, right? I names names 1 and names 2, and it also contains some names of the variables which we got from any source, right? So we don't care. So we can say John, we can say Doe, Fu, and stuff like that, right? So now what I need to do is I want to combine these 2 lists, names 1 and names 2. So there are multiple ways to combine these lists. So let's say I want to combine these lists, and I want a new list which will have values from both of these lists. So for that, I will create another list, and I will just add these lists. So you can simply add 2 lists, and what it will do is it will combine the values of both lists into another list, and it will return a new list. So these 2 lists will remain unchanged, and it will this expression will return a new list which will have combined values of both of these lists. So now if I print names 3, it will have, and let's also print the other lists to see the effect of this statement on those lists. See, so names 1 is unaffected, names 2 is unaffected, and we have names 3 here which has values from both of the lists. So this is how you can combine a list and get a new one. And now let's say you want to add the values of these lists into names 1. You don't want the third list, you just want to append new list into this list, right? So what you can do is names 1, like we just saw that there is a method append, and we have another method which is called extend. So the difference is, in append method you can give the value which will be added as an element in the array, in the list, right? So when I gave Usman 3, it was added at the end of the list, right? But now I have another list and I don't want I don't want that list to be added as an element. I want the items of that list to be added into the first list, right? So I want all these items as items in this list. So for that I will use extend. We can see the difference between append and extend with the list. So let's say first we use append and let's see what it does, right? So if I say if I write names1 dot append to names2 and names2, okay, so let's print names2 only, okay. Okay, okay, we appended names1, so we should print names1. Okay, see, so what it did was that it added an element only in this list. So append will add whatever you give here as an element. So this whole list is just an element at index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if now I print names 1 and I print the fourth index, it will print this whole list, right? Because this list was added as an element of that list, right? But we don't want that. We want the elements of this list to be added as an elements in this list. So for that we will use extend. So if now I print names1, it will have all the elements from names2 list. See, so this is a basic difference between the append function and an extend function. I would recommend you to go and play with other methods you have in the list, like sorting, reversing, and other stuff like that. So this is how we use lists in Python. So now we will move to tuples. Tuples are also a container, just like lists. So we will first see an example and then we will see the difference between list and tuples. So the syntax is almost the same as defining the list. So let's say I have a tuple of ages, right? And I want to have multiple ages here, like 23, 25, 31, 40, right? Okay, so the only difference in defining a list and a tuple is that list is initialized by using square brackets, and tuples are defined by using these brackets, right? So we can access the tuples in the same way like we did with list. So if I say print ages of 0, it will print the first item in the tuple, which is 23, right? And yeah, so that's pretty much it about the tuples. So what's the difference between list and tuples? So before that, I would like to introduce a concept in Python which is of mutability and immutability. So there are two kinds of objects in Python, mutable and immutable. So mutable objects are those whose value can be changed, and immutable objects are those whose values cannot be changed, or whose value cannot be changed, right? So if we try to change, let's try to change the value of list item, right? So let's say I want to set the value at the first index of this list to something else, right? So I say new Abasi, right? And then I will print this list. Okay, so here it is. It allowed me to update the value at any index in the list, right? Let's do the same with tuple. Ages 1 equal to 50, right? So PyCharm is very intelligent. So if I scroll here, it is already giving me the warning about tuples don't support item assignment, because tuples are mutable and lists tuples are immutable and lists are mutable. So if I try to change the value of the tuple, it will give me an error. So if I just run this code, it will give me, I don't even need to print edges, it will just give me an error at this line. Okay, so it is giving me an error, type error, tuple object does not support item assignment, which in other words is trying to say that we cannot change the value of the tuple, or we cannot change the value at any index inside the tuple. So that's the basic difference between tuples and lists. Okay, so we have created lists and tuples, and we have accessed the elements at specific indices in both of those data types. And but let's say, what if we want to iterate through whole container, like, right? So let's say I want to print all the names in this list, or I want to do anything with all the items in tuple, right? So we will use for loop to iterate over lists or tuples. So it is very easy to iterate over all the elements. So first, if you want to access any specific element, or an element at specific index, we already saw how to do it. We just give the index in square brackets, and it will give us the element at that index. But if we want to iterate through all the to the whole list or tuple, we will use for loop. We will say for I in. So in last video, when we were learning for loops, we used range method here because we wanted to run the code with with specific number of times. But here we want to run the loop through all the items. So we will write the name of the list or tuple here. So let's say I say names 1. So, and for this is just a variable, you can name it anything. So I will call it item, which is more meaningful, right? So now at every iteration, this item will have the element of the list, right? So initially, when it will run, so when in first iteration, this item will have the first item in this list. In second iteration, it will have second item, and so on until all of the items from this container have been used, right? So let's print this. Let's run this loop. Okay, so see, it has printed all the names inside this list. So this is how we iterate over a list. Or say we can use the same test syntax to iterate over a tuple. So we will instead of name of the tuple list, we will give the name of the tuple here, and it will do the same. Let's print some separator. Okay, see, so it has printed all the edges inside the edges tuple. So this is it is very simple to iterate over the list. We just need a for loop here to iterate over the lists. So that's pretty much it about lists and tuples in Python. I would recommend you to go to Python official documentation about lists and tuples, and go through different methods and try to do different things with both of these things. See you in next video.